The world has lost another remarkable figure connected to one of America's most storied families. Joan Bennett Kennedy, the former wife of the late Senator Edward M. Kennedy, has passed away peacefully in her sleep at her home in Boston, Massachusetts, on October 8, 2025. She was 89 years old. The announcement was confirmed by Steve Kerrigan of the Massachusetts Democratic Party, who described her passing as peaceful and graceful, just as she lived her life. Joan's life was one of beauty, music, and quiet strength. Though she was often known to the world as Ted Kennedy's wife, those who knew her closely remember her as a gifted classical pianist, a devoted mother, and a courageous woman who publicly battled her own struggles while inspiring countless others along the way. Joan Bennett Kennedy was born on September 2, 1936, in New York City, and raised in the suburbs by a loving Roman Catholic family. From an early age, her parents noticed her extraordinary ear for music. While other children played outside, Joan often spent hours at the piano, losing herself in the harmonies of Chopin and Mozart. Her upbringing was conservative and disciplined. Her parents emphasized faith, education, and good manners. But behind her gentle and quiet personality was a young woman full of ambition and creativity. Joan attended Manhattanville College, a private Catholic institution in New York, where she studied music and refined her classical piano technique. It was there that fate would bring her into contact with a family name that would forever change the trajectory of her life, the Kennedys. In 1957, Joan met Edward Ted Kennedy through his sister Jean Kennedy, who was her classmate at Manhattanville. The meeting was simple, an introduction between friends, but something clicked instantly. Ted was charming, tall, and confident, while Joan was elegant, reserved, and thoughtful. Within a year, they became engaged. Both Joan and Ted reportedly had some hesitation about marrying so young, but the Kennedy patriarch, Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., strongly encouraged the union. And on November 29, 1958, the couple married in a small ceremony in Bronxville, New York, the very town where Joan grew up. She was just 22 years old. Their wedding symbolized not just the joining of two people, but the merging of very different worlds. Joan's quiet, traditional upbringing with the larger-than-life energy of the Kennedy political dynasty. Joan's life changed almost overnight. By 1962, at the age of 25, she became the youngest wife of the youngest U.S. senator ever elected. Her husband Ted was following in the footsteps of his famous brothers, President John F. Kennedy and Senator Robert F. Kennedy. While Ted campaigned and served in Washington, Joan quickly became a visible presence at his side, poised, elegant, and always supportive. She often opened campaign rallies by playing the piano, filling rooms with her music before her husband addressed the crowd. It became her signature, a graceful reminder that art and humanity still lived within the sometimes harsh world of politics. But behind the smiles and music, Joan's life was not as idyllic as it appeared. She and Ted welcomed 3 children, Kara, Ted Jr., and Patrick, each of whom would grow into public figures themselves. Yet the weight of political life, combined with Ted's long absences and the growing pressures of fame, took its toll on her spirit. In 1969, the Kennedy family was shaken by the tragic Chappaquiddick incident, when Ted's car went off a bridge, resulting in the death of Mary Jo Kopechne. Joan, though in poor health at the time, stood beside Ted at the funeral and during the aftermath. The event drew enormous public scrutiny, and once again, Joan found herself under the harsh glare of cameras. She endured humiliation as the stories of Ted's personal failings and infidelity became public. Despite her grace and loyalty, she often found herself alone, quietly struggling to maintain her dignity while trying to protect her children from the media storm surrounding their family. Those who knew Joan described her as gentle but unbreakable. She found her escape and comfort in music, particularly the piano, her lifelong companion. Jackie Kennedy, who understood the pressures of being part of the famous family, once advised Joan to turn to her music whenever the world felt overwhelming. But as the years went on, Joan's battles became more personal. The emotional strain of her marriage and the tragedies surrounding the Kennedy family led her to begin drinking heavily. By her own admission, she began drinking to feel less inhibited and to block out unhappiness. In later interviews, Joan spoke candidly about her struggles with alcoholism and depression, becoming one of the first prominent American women to publicly acknowledge such issues at a time when society treated them as taboos. She once told People magazine, "Staying sober is difficult, but I'm sober today, and that's all that matters." Her honesty and vulnerability touched many who were quietly fighting the same battles. After years of personal turmoil, Joan made a courageous choice. In 1982, she and Ted divorced after 24 years of marriage. She moved from Washington to Boston, hoping for a fresh start away from the political spotlight. Determined to rebuild her life, she enrolled at Lesley University, where she earned a master's degree in musical education. With renewed purpose, Joan began teaching music to children and performing at various local venues and orchestras around the world. Her performances were not just about sound, they were about healing. She used her music to inspire others, showing that art could be a bridge to peace and recovery. She became deeply involved with the Boston Symphony Orchestra, the Boston Council for the Arts and Humanities, and several charitable organizations that promoted mental health awareness and arts education. In 1992, she published her best-selling book, The Joy of Classical Music, which aimed to make classical music more approachable and enjoyable for everyone. The book reflected her life philosophy, that beauty and understanding could grow out of pain. Joan's life after her divorce wasn't without challenges. Her struggle with sobriety continued, and her battle occasionally made headlines, particularly during the 1990s and early 2000s when she faced several highly publicized incidents related to alcohol. Eventually, she was appointed a legal guardian to help her manage her affairs and protect her well-being. But through it all, Joan never gave up. Friends often recalled how she would still play the piano daily, even when she didn't feel strong. The music gave her comfort, stability, and meaning. Those who visited her in her later years described her home as peaceful, filled with family photos, old sheet music, and the warm echo of piano notes that still danced through the air. Joan found her greatest pride and joy in her children. Her daughter, Cara Kennedy, a filmmaker and mother of two, tragically passed away in 2011 from a heart attack. That loss deeply affected Joan, but she found solace in her surviving sons. Her son, Ted Kennedy Jr., an attorney and cancer survivor who lost a leg to bone cancer at age 12, often spoke about his mother's unwavering support during his toughest times. Her youngest, Patrick Kennedy, served as a U.S. congressman from Rhode Island and became a national advocate for mental health and addiction recovery, a mission inspired by his mother's own honesty and courage. In his tribute after her passing, Patrick Kennedy said, "Mom was a powerful example to millions of people living with mental health conditions. She will be missed not just by our family, but by the entire arts community and all those whose lives she touched." The world of music also mourned her loss. Renowned composer John Williams, conductor laureate of the Boston Pops, described her as an accomplished pianist whose passion for music and dedication to the young people of Boston will leave a lasting legacy. Indeed, Joan Bennett Kennedy's influence in the Boston art scene was profound. Through scholarships, concerts, and mentorships, she helped countless young musicians discover the power of classical music. Her friends said that even in her later years, Joan's eyes would light up whenever she heard live piano music. Music was her language, the one constant in a life that saw both triumph and heartbreak. In her final days, Joan was surrounded by peace. According to close family friends, she spent her last evening listening to recordings of her favorite composer, Claude Debussy, while her grandchildren visited her bedside. As she drifted off to sleep for the last time, one of her caregivers recalled her softly whispering, "The music never ends, it just changes form." Those are believed to have been her final words, gentle, poetic, and deeply reflective of the woman she had always been. Her cause of death was attributed to natural causes related to age, and she passed away peacefully in her sleep. A fitting and serene farewell for a woman who had endured so much yet remained full of grace. Today, Joan Bennett Kennedy's story stands as one of resilience and renewal. She lived through public scrutiny, heartbreak, and personal struggles. Yet she found redemption through music, faith, and the love of her family. Her life reminds us that even those who seem to live in the shadow of greatness often possess a greatness of their own. Quieter, gentler, but just as powerful. Joan's courage in speaking openly about addiction and mental health in an era of silence made her a pioneer, paving the way for future generations to seek help without shame. Her journey wasn't perfect, but it was deeply human, marked by mistakes, redemption, and a lasting love for art and family. Joan Bennett Kennedy leaves behind two children, Ted Kennedy Jr. and Patrick J. Kennedy, 9 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild, a sister named Candace McMurray, and a legacy that continues to inspire those who believe in the healing power of honesty and music. Her story is one of quiet courage, a reminder that strength is not always loud, and resilience often comes wrapped in gentleness. As her son Ted Kennedy Jr. beautifully said, "I will always admire my mother for the way she faced her challenges with grace, courage, humility, and honesty. May she rest in eternal peace, her music echoing forever through the hearts she touched." Thank you for watching this tribute to Joan Bennett Kennedy, a woman of music, courage, and quiet strength. If you were touched by her story, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt tributes celebrating the lives of those who made a difference in the world. And as Joan herself once said, "Music is the voice of the soul. It speaks when words fail." May her soul continue to sing.